karuna pecho. Departure day of the microphone as well, by the looks of it. Seems on its last threads. Eno Prabhu Kota Kela Acharya Thako Kamora Shwaruprupa Kahasanata Kahadasa Raghunatha Bhatta Pavan Kahamora Bhattayuka Kaha Kaviraj Kaviraj Eka Kale Kota Kela Gora Nataraj Eka Kale Kota Kela Gora Nataraj. A little bit not quite so quick into the starter there, please. Pashane Kutibo Mata Anale Pashivo Pashane Kutibo Mata Anale Pashivo Goranga Gunera Nidhi Kota Kele Pamo Goranga Gunera Nidhi Kota Kele Pamo Se Saba Sangira Sange Ekoilo Bila Se Saba Sangira Sange Ekoilo Bila Se Sangana Paya Kande Naruthamadasa Se Sangana Paya Kande Naruthamadasa Se sangha na paya kande naruttama matasa. Se sangha na paya kande naruttama. Ye anilo premadana ye anilo premadana koruna Hino Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Sakor Hino Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Sakor Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, 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 Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharyam Ashtota Sadishla A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Shri Haridasa Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Gita Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Shri Raghunath Das Goswami Tirubab Mahamahotsav Ki Jai, Shri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami Tirubab Mahotsav Ki, Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Tirubab Mahotsav Ki. Gaura Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Ate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Vacharine Nevasesha Sunyavadi Pastacharya Shitani. Hare Krishna. Any chance we could have a copy of the Chaitanya Charitamrita Anchalila chapter 13? Is there anyone activates on these things? There's always a chance. A mobile will not work. I have to have the book itself. Do we have books anymore? Still have books, huh? They exist. They still exist, huh? Thank God. I don't know how it works. Is there a verse somewhere on some modern screen, or what is this? Is there something behind me? Nothing. There's nothing at all behind me. Completely void. Total void. End of the world. Uh-huh. Where are we at? What's this, Preman? Huh? Yeah, but today is a really special day, so I don't know what we're supposed to do. I've received no authoritative direction here. Where's the temple president? Where's the Shakamata? She's busy. What should I do, Keshava Maharaj? You must be an authority around here. Pardon? Or maybe we can, or maybe we can't. I was thinking of something a little bit different today, because it's such a special day, isn't it? I mean, are you observing Ekadashi here? Okay. It's Dwadashi officially on the calendar, but today we observe Ekadashi. Somewhere or other, Ekadashi dissolved in between. And here comes a book, we hope, appropriately speaking. Thank you so much, Prabhu. My word, I'm eternally indebted. Hare Krishna, thank you. It would take a long time, even if we spoke briefly on these three, what would we say, extraordinary, sublime transcendentalists. And today we'll have chosen to depart the world, not on the same year, but on the same day of the year, the same TT. So oftentimes we hear the history of these great persons, which is very important. How's that ailing microphone? Is it doing okay? It works better like this. You have to stand it upright. It's like, when people fall down, you have to put them back up again. They last a bit longer. So, to hear about these, even the pastimes, we hear the pastimes of Krishna, and this is, we could say, an essential feature or factor of our devotional endeavors. Most important subject matter for curing us of the disease or the illusion of the material energy. And even more pleasing to Krishna is to hear about his pure devotees. They're more dear to him than his very self. So we often hear about, Raghunath Das Goswami. I'm sure that anyone who's been around the movement a few little while is familiar with many of the pastimes of Raghunath Das Goswami. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita especially, we see quite a few pastimes of Raghunath Das Goswami extensively shared by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. There's an intimate relationship between these two great personalities. Sometimes it's said that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he was at least a Siksha disciple of Das Goswami. He took Siksha of Chaitanya Charitamrita, compiled in was from the hearing from Raghunath Das Goswami, because Raghunath Das Goswami had been living a long time in Puri. Throughout most of the latter years of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Puri, Raghunath Das was a personal witness. And particularly Raghunath Das was intimately associated with Bhakti Swarup Swarup Damodar Maharaj. And Swarup Damodar was the personal secretary of Mahaprabhu, so he was keeping notes, and these were accessible to Raghunath Das also. So Raghunath Das, when he came to Vrindavan, shared with the other residents, the devotees of Vrindavan, much of the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, particularly in Puri. So in this way, Kaviraj Goswami compiled Chaitanya Charitamrita, and naturally he spoke a lot about Raghunath Das Goswami and his pastimes in Puri and also in Bengal before he left to go to join Mahaprabhu. So it's a very intimate relationship, like guru-disciple relationship. So we often hear this pastime of Raghunath Das, but today I thought we'd do something a little different. Although it's Bhaktivedanta Thakur himself was described by hearing the pastimes of these great personalities. One can awaken confidence, determination, and experience satisfaction. In this, more or less, you could say, qualities we need in devotional service: patience, tolerance, and enthusiasm. And without feeling of satisfaction, then naturally our minds will wander elsewhere, because it's the nature of all living entities to try to achieve a state of happiness. These eternal associates of the Lord, all three of these great personalities, who was Raghunath Bhatta and Raghunath Das Goswamis, are amongst the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, the immediate followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishnadas Kaviraj came a little bit later, but he was also present during their time. He compiled Chaitanya Charitamrita little after their time, although Jiva Goswami was still present when he compiled Chaitanya Charitamrita. The others had moved along. And they're all eternal associates of the Lord in a very special role to assist manjaris in the spiritual realm. What is their business? What is the business of a manjari? What is their business? Pardon? To assist the gopis, and specifically to make arrangements for the meeting with Radha and Krishna and facilitate that meeting, and with other gopis too maybe. But particularly union, to satisfy that purpose of the union. They're very happy to see the union. So similarly in this world, these great personalities come, Raghunath Das, they're all 3 of them are manjaris, mainly our acharyas in that line, of course, come in this world also to flavor and to facilitate that union, both of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, experiencing of separation, and also to connect other living entities in their constitutional relationship with Krishna, make that union. So in this world, in their sadhaka forms, this Krishnadas Kaviraj, of course, has written the, we'd say, the king of all shastras, practically speaking, maybe even the emperor. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said that even if all the books in the world were destroyed, but only Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita remain, no loss. And even if Bhagavatam didn't exist, if Chaitanya Charitamrita existed, everything is there. It's the topmost of all scriptures. So this is a very high, let's say, statement of recognition for Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada described it as the postgraduate studies. So in there we also hear a little bit about Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. Extraordinary life of Raghunath Bhatta. And of course Krishnadas Kaviraj himself, the compiler, doesn't write much about himself, but we see intense humility in his words within the script. So I thought what we'll do today is we'll just maybe read one verse, but basically speaking, the little time we have, we're going to see if we can come up with some of the most profound lessons. They're all acharyas. Prabhupada described these personalities as our Siksha gurus. They're not just historical personalities who are nice to hear about and to maybe talk about. But they are acharyas, they're teaching us by example. They are our Siksha gurus. The Goswamis are, in one sense, primary Siksha gurus, giving us instructions for their literature. Acharya is the one who teaches by example, by their example. So you start, if you're asleep, somebody next to you can wake you up. And if you're awake, start thinking. We're going to ask you in a little while, not immediately when we start, to think of one. We'll go through personality one by one, but not yet, but some very specific lessons which they have revealed to the world for those serious about the path of bhakti, which is the business of an acharya, to awaken that within our hearts, to apply, not just to hear, but to apply the teaching in our heart. Don't get scared. I'm not going to call on anyone. He's running away. He's getting scared there already. Look at him. Yeah. Time to go, right? Busy. Very busy. Very busy. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghujago Shri Jiva Gopalako Do we have time to sing the Sat Goswami Astakam? I think that'll be the end of the class. Be a good idea. The best thing. If we had time, of course, we would normally sing this song also. That you can see if you have the time today. Look in the songbook or whatever you have and meditate on the Sat Goswami Ashtakam and the wonderful example of these great acharyas. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivasesha Sanyavari Pastachade Chatani Vanchakal Paturubhyascha Kripa Sindhiveva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So very fortunate to have the association today of Yadavar Prabhu. Thank you for being with us. How long are you staying in England? Leaving on October 11th for India. Oh, wonderful. and then coming back again? Not sure. See what Krishna's plans are. Yeah. Maharaj, you have to excuse me, I forgot your sannyas name. Very simple name from Ujjain. Hare Krishna. Well, it's nice to see you a long time. Hare Krishna, thank you. And Geshwara Maharaj, thank you very much for being with us. Sorry I bumped you off the class schedule this morning. I didn't give you any choice here. I just told him, I said, I'm giving class this morning, not you. Who do you think you are? In my usual humility, of course. And he's leaving for India tomorrow. Is that right? And when are you going back to India, Maharaj? 19th. Pardon? India, I go back 19th. 19th of October. Plenty of time. We can come to France for a week. No problem. We'll make a ticket. You can come with us today, okay? Ready? Yes. Yeah. Did you hear that? My goodness, that's a pretty risky statement that you've made there, my friend. Wow. I'm not your authority, though. I'm your servant. You have to tell me what to do. Hare Krishna. So we'll get back now to today's glorious opportunity to get their association. And many of you have probably visited the samadhis of these great devotees. Where's the samadhi of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami? Excuse me? Excuse me? Radha Damodar Mandir. You'll find a samadhi. He also has a samadhi elsewhere. You find maybe some differences of opinion maybe there, and sometimes there's what's called a Pushpa Samadhi, and sometimes Nam Samadhi or a Grunt Samadhi, different samadhis maybe there in Radhakund also you'll find. Raghunath Das Goswami, that's an easy one. Where's his samadhi? Pardon? Radhakund. Perhaps the most famous samadhi in Radhakund. At least for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, this is one of the primary places that we go. Primary in Raghunath Das, because you have to practice some of the qualities of Raghunath Das, of humility and tolerance when you're there as well, because there are lots of enthusiastic pandas there who are extremely, let's say, eager to give you mercy in various forms. And you have to be very tolerant. And it's hard to meditate sometimes, but what to do. At least tolerance, patience, humility. And where's Raghunath Bhatta Goswami's samadhi? Excuse me? I probably has got one there, I can't remember, but specifically he has a samadhi. It's not so well known. In fact, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami is probably not so well known amongst most devotees. You hear a lot about Rupa, Sanatan, and Gopal Bhatta also in many ways, and Jiva and Raghunath Das. But Raghunath Bhatta is not so much emphasized perhaps in our, I don't know, teachings, whatever. But a very special personality. He was very intimate rather, or very involved, because he was sent, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent him to Vrindavan to take shelter of Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, like several of them. But he took shelter of Rupa Goswami as his spiritual master. He assisted Rupa Goswami in many ways in the worship of Radha Govinda. Everyone has heard, if not been, I would imagine, if you've been around a while, the deity or the temple of Radha Govindaji in Vrindavan. Most of the deities are now in Jaipur, but there's other deities, Patipu, whatever, there are other deities there of Radha Govindaji. But the temple is there, and that temple was basically, it was the disciples of Raghunath Bhatta who put that temple, constructed the temple for Govindaji. He engaged his devotees, disciples, he had disciples also, in that service to Rupa Goswami. And he also engaged in the service of Radha Govinda. He had his disciples worship, and he was also engaged in the worship of Radha Govinda. So he's very involved there. So if you go to the 64 samadhis, if you've been in Vrindavan, the area, there you'll find Raghunath Bhatta Goswami's samadhi there. It's not a well-frequented area, not as well as many. So they're all, as we mentioned earlier, acharyas coming from the spiritual world. Who remembers who Raghunath Bhatta Goswami is spiritual, and spiritual in this world or in that world, but in his relationship with Krishna? These eternal associates often expand. It's not that they leave the spiritual world and there's like a gap. Hey, where is who is here today? Who can we say? I don't know many devotees' names. I've forgotten everybody's names. Prayojana, I remember Prayojana, and he's not here. And you'll say, "Where's Prayojana?" Right? Oh, he's gone to India. Gone to India. Is he gone to India? I think he's already gone. Oh, there he comes back again. So he's not here, he's in India. But it's not like that with the eternal associates, when the Lord expands, they're not like ordinary jivas. Their business, a particular mood which they have in relationship with the Lord, and when the Lord expands in the different pastimes, they may also expand if their particular role or mood is compatible to the Lord's pastimes. So they expand. It's not like they go running around in the spiritual world. You have to tell me, who is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Is that the question I asked? What did I ask? Huh? Who? Huh? Raghunath Bhatta, okay. So who is he in the spiritual? In the spiritual world here, but in the Krishna Lila, who is he? Huh? Ragamanjari, thank you very much, Ragamanjari. So it's not like he's here and everyone's looking at, well, what happened to Ragamanjari? Is she blooped? Where's she gone? No, of course that's a joke. But obviously not blooping, but where's she gone? Well, she joined Chandravali. It's not possible, impossible. No, they expand to serve in the Lord's pastimes in this world. So he's Raga, and who is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Kasturi. Kasturi, there's difference of opinion, but Kasturi is the usual one. And who is Raghunath Das? That's difficult? There are different opinions. There are different statements, and there's no reason why you can't be both. It's the mood of these particular associates may manifest, different times in their relationship when they expand in this world. So they can both be with Ramananda Roy. He's all kinds, several others too. Different moods here. Even Haridas Thakur, there's at least 4 different personalities who are said to be Haridas Thakur. So they may appear at different times to get the association or perform that particular mood to display that. They have different moods and different natures and so on, which manifest. They don't necessarily have to manifest in different bodies, apparent bodies. So Raghunath Das, who is he in Manjari Bhav? Pardon? Very good. You've got 2 of them, the 2 that are usually cited, Rasa or Rati Manjari. But they're all Manjaris, most intimate devotees. So let's now go to the subject matter of what are we going to learn from all of this. Who should we start with? Let's start with Raghunath Bhatta. If you remember anything about his pastimes, what can you remember? Which is a lesson. Don't just say, oh, he was born so-and-so date and his father was so-and-so and he moved so-and-so to here and there. That's history, which is also wonderful to hear, but lessons, yes.
So attend Srimad Bhagavatam class daily.
He would attend Srimad?
I'm saying that's a lesson that I would take from him because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him to speak Srimad Bhagavatam every morning and he would give class at Austerity on here every day.
Wonderful. That's probably the most primary, let's say, lesson. Makes it sound rather passive, doesn't it? It's almost like a school. It's not like that. Revelation, essential revelation, essential instruction, essential example, which he's, through Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Lord Chaitanya has shared with the world. We could read, let's see, here we go. 113, There is a chapter here which does speak quite a bit about Raghunath Bhatta. Oh, there it goes again. Whoop. And it's going to be, maybe you haven't got time to follow it, but 113, chapter 13, Anjalila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Raghunath Bhatta, when you return home, I'm not going to read it, because there's another example here. They're both in the same verse. Anyway, he said, and I'll read the second part, try to study Srimad Bhagavatam from a pure devotee who has realized God. So that's the first thing. To speak Bhagavatam, you have to hear Bhagavatam somewhere along the line. And as you've rightly said, when Raghunath Bhatta was sent to Vrindavan by Mahaprabhu himself, he was given this instruction to speak Srimad Bhagavatam, to share it with others. His recitation of Bhagavatam was not ordinary. We may recite Srimad Bhagavatam, and as Prabhupada said, it's a very good cure for insomnia. All kinds of different, effects may be there accordingly. But when Raghunath Bhatta Goswami would recite the Srimad Bhagavatam, what would happen and how would he do it? Many hours a day. Yes, Prabhu.
He was reciting it, each verse, each read, and he could recite it in 3 different melodies.
Different melodies. In many different melodies. He would recite the same verse in different melodies. It would be like, each time, it wouldn't be like, oh, you just said that, Can't you say another one? Each time it was like enlivening, fresh revelations from different melodies, sweetness. Everyone was captivated, enthralled by his presence and the words which he was sharing as beautiful melodies. He would be in so much ecstasy, and everyone would be in so much ecstasy just to be in the presence of the pure sound vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam. We may have a little way to go, but this is a very essential aspect, we could say, of his service. All the Goswamis would come, as you say, at the Govindaji temple, and they would hear Srimad Bhagavatam from Raghunath Bhatta. Even though they're all eternal associates, it's not like I've heard that before. It's not like an ordinary subject matter. There was no pride involved whatsoever. Simply, so okay, what's another example of Raghunath Bhatta? There's a purport by Prabhupada, we don't have time to read it. Beautiful purport. What's another lesson we can learn from the life of Raghunath Bhatta? Is anyone else? We got one.
Personal example, he said to overlook the faults of devotees.
Over what?
To overlook the faults of devotees.
Overlook the what of devotees?
Faults.
Faults.
He didn't find faults.
I can't get it. Force? Faults. Thank you. Very wonderful. See it. I'm so fault-finding that I can't hear that word. When someone talks about not finding faults in devotees, I don't hear what they say, and I'm just seeing faults in them. What are you talking about? Well, yeah, he wouldn't hear. We see this in different examples of devotees, but this is quite a common one. They would not hear. And even our Jayananda Prabhu, Prabhupada disciple, did you know him, Yadavar Prabhu? Jayananda Prabhu? You knew him? You knew him well?
Not so well.
No, I didn't know him. I only saw him once, and that was not knowing who he was, basically. He didn't make himself prominently known. I mean, he was just the sort of person who just had nothing in his life except for service to Prabhupada, and he didn't need to advertise that. That was perfection of life. It advertises itself. But we were told, you may know better, but told that he would not tolerate hearing the criticism or faults of any other devotee. Just no time for this stuff. We can read in text 133, just briefly, these little references are there. It states here, Krishnadas Kaviraj, he said, he would not listen the blasphemy of a Vaishnava, nor would he listen to talk of a Vaishnava's misbehavior. He wouldn't listen to it. Isn't it sometimes we hear, we spend time on these things? Maybe not, hopefully not blasphemy, but hearing about misbehavior of devotees is a really essential purport here. We haven't got time to read, but it's quite astonishing how much time we can spend, especially if you happen to have a mobile phone, and you go on some sites and this and that, how much negativity there is. If we could use a little bit of that time, well, not a little bit, all of it, for glorifying the devotees, finding good. I mean, our acharyas have emphasized this over and over again. Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Manor, so many examples are there of the importance of not getting caught in this dangerous whirlpool of finding fault in others. Our real business is glorifying the Lord and the devotees, and if there is a fault-finding tendency, like Bhaktivedanta Manor said one time, it's a kind of related example. Should we, just like Hanuman, on behalf of Lord Ram, destroyed Lanka, practically speaking? Should we also, those who are envious of the Lord, should we, like that, should we be kind of like angry with them, or, use our, like that? Bhakti said, of course we should. But first we should look at our own hearts and see who is the most envious of the Lord. And when I look at my own heart, I find I am the most envious. To whom should we use that anger? So it's easy to find fault in others. He said, pry not into the frailties of others. Look within, find your own faults. It's easy to point fingers at others, but that's because we've got faults. If one's in a position of responsibility or authority, that's something different. But our main business is to root out our own faults, not others. So he was teaching this example. Don't pry in this way. Focus on the actual process of glorification of the devotees and the Bhagavatam. Not artificially, but in reality. So it says here, he knew only that everyone was engaged in Krishna's service. Of course, this is the mentality of the Uttama Bhagavat, who sees everyone engaged in their spiritual sense in relationship with Krishna. We're teaching them. He did not understand anything else. He just saw everything like this in relationship with Krishna. Great purpose. What else can you learn from Raghunath Bhatta? Pardon? Thank you. That was a really good one. That's not such a common one, perhaps, to come forward with. Lord Chaitanya told him. In fact, in this verse here, Lord Chaitanya says, when you return home, serve your aged father and mother. Is this a lesson for everyone? Well, how can you apply that in your life? Many of you, especially, have aged parents. Is Lord Chaitanya telling you to leave now and go and look after your parents? What do we do? I mean, Dipesh Prabhu, where's Dipesh? There he is. He's looking after his aged parents. His father is here today, mother's at home. So what example are we to get from this? There's another two words behind that which qualify this statement. Who are devotees? Lord Chaitanya emphasized this. Now, of course, materially speaking, there's a responsibility there, no doubt, for those who are in that world or on that path. But in terms of those who are on the spiritual path, how does this apply? Particularly if your parents are devotees. He said, Lord Chaitanya sent him home to look after his parents. Take care. Of course, the greatest thing you can do for your parents is to deliver them from birth and death. Somehow or another, if a devotee, becoming serious devotees, automatically. Now, this is a big subject. We don't have time to get into it, but it is an example. Because they're devotees, you have to look at. We can apply this to all walks of life. Brahmacharis, ladies, children, grihastas, no matter what one happens to be labeled. To look after devotees, to care for devotees is an essential say, necessity of our movement. What else can we learn from Raghunath Bhatta? Yes?
He was a great cook.
Well, I don't know how much you can learn from that, but we can certainly hear about it. He was a very expert cook. Now, I don't know if there's any descriptions anywhere of the nature of his expertise. We do find this in the case of other cooks, maybe Raghunath Pandit and others, and different devotees who cooked, Raghunath Bhatta and others who are expert cooks, no doubt. Sometimes we see descriptions of what they cooked in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Prabhupada, indicative that Krishnadas Kaviraj also had a bit of a culinary expertise about him, and he seemed to get into this quite a lot. But yes, he was a very expert cook. Lord Chaitanya would savor and relish anything he cooked. He spent quite a bit of time in Puri also, and with Mahaprabhu, and he would cook there for Mahaprabhu quite a lot. Well, is there anything else we can learn from Raghunath Bhatta?
Follow the Lord's instructions, even though sometimes it was not.
Good perception, yeah. Lord Chaitanya sent him away from Puri, you could say, to Vrindavan. Sent him home to his parents. 2 times he was sent away. So yes, faithful to the order of the master and not putting one's own enjoyments, or whatever you want to call it, in front, but whatever my spiritual master wants. Yes, good perception. He also, related to the comment which you made, the point which you made, he would never hear any mundane topics of this world. Now, I was talking to Giriraj Maharaj last night. We talked for a long time, and I was expressing how, fallen I am, always have been, but particularly during this period, and how I allowed my mind to become overly absorbed in certain of the world. There's a lot going on these days, huh? You can hear about, isn't it? COVID, wars, queens, presidents, you name it. All kinds of crazy things going on out there. And it's easy for the mind to get wrapped up in it and wrap others' minds up in it too. Huh? It really can be a prajapa, diversion from our real business. It's Maya's trick, Kali Yuga particularly. So he wouldn't hear anything. He didn't want to hear anything about this mundane world. Of course, he may have known, but what would there be to talk about anyway in those days? How many grains the local farmer produced this summer? I mean, there was no internet in those days, right? What a funny world it must have been, huh? You didn't know what was going on in the next town, what to speak of on the other side of the world. It's strange, huh? Some of those who've been... Excuse me?
They could have talked about worrying about Muslims invading.
Yeah, that may have been on a topic of concern, although maybe at different times it wasn't a major issue at that particular moment of time. A little bit later it became a major issue. Maybe it wasn't. A king. What was the Muslim king at that time? What was his name? Huh? No, that was later. He came later. Akbar, who was somewhat, you could say for sure, sympathetic towards the Goswamis. He was almost supporting them in many ways. He had great attachment to Jiva Goswami. So maybe that wasn't such a big topic either on their minds at that time. I mean, what would be on their minds? What else is there in a, I mean, we've made so much nonsense to think and talk about nowadays, isn't there? Incredible. It's unending. Yes, Prabhu.
You're probably talking about the conspiracy around the Shamataka jewel.
Pardon?
You're probably talking about the conspiracy.
Oh, my goodness, that's a... No, they wouldn't be, because that's Dwarka Lila. That's what we're doing. Yeah, something there, I mean, they have, of course, we understand that they're discussing the transcendental pastimes of the Lord and the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and so on, Bhagavatam. But from the mundane perspective, there was no television, no news was there. It was a whole different environment. So he would never tolerate that, hearing anything mundane. We can hear that. Let's see, this is 132. Raghunath Bhatta would neither hear nor speak about anything of the material world. I'm sure none of you do either. You spiritualize it all. He would simply discuss Krishna and worship the Lord day and night. You could probably find a few more things. Of course, I mean, I don't know if you said he's a good cook. Lord Chaitanya also gave him the order never to get married. I don't know if that's something to learn from. Maybe not. Yes, Japa.
I'm not so precise on this, so maybe I can offer this up and somebody can confirm or see if this makes sense. I was told that they use a lot of the mantras that they use in the marriage ceremonies actually came from Raghunath Bhatta. The mantras and some of the rituals. This is what I was told by the shrine.
In what context?
I don't know what the context is. It's just that they, the devotee that was here that created a lot of the wedding ceremonies here, the chap from Yorkshire, he actually drew upon some of the mantras and the teachings of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami.
Raghunath Bhatta, most likely Gopal Bhatta. More likely Gopal.
Thank you very much.
Most likely, because he was.
That's why I was offering
That's another subject, of course. We won't mention that. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Now, what about, let's say, Raghunath Das? That is an easy one. What lessons can we learn from Raghunath Das? I mean, can we learn anything? Or maybe we're going to start performing what is spontaneous devotion in following Raghunath Das Goswami on the highest level of, Madhurya Rasa. I mean, what are you going to learn?
Better to eat a little less than a little more. Prabhupada was describing Raghunath Das's austerities once.
Wow.
In regard to his eating, and Prabhupada said, you cannot imitate that. He said, you cannot imitate. But from him you can take the example, better to eat a little less than a little more.
My goodness.
And in this recording, Prabhupada
Let me
said,
write that down a minute.
and in the
I've
recording,
got to learn this one.
Prabhupada said
I haven't learned that after 51 years. I still haven't learned it.
Prabhupada said, better you eat a little less than a little more.
Less than what?
And then he said, not that you hide in a closet with a dozen samosas. So he must open the door.
11? 11? 11's okay?
That's
a little less, one less. Yeah. I have a funny example. I remember in 1972, one young man joined. His name was Michael Critchley, and he became initiated by Prabhupada. He was quite famous. He's in many pictures. He was really hanging around Prabhupada a lot, but he was an unusual character. His mother came to the manor. She had a long conversation with Prabhupada, almost arguing with Prabhupada over many topics. And besides that, he was an extraordinary person. When he first came, Raghunath Das Goswami was quite well, prominent, I would say, in our discussions in those days. And he very much became attracted to the mood of Raghunath Das Goswami. And it seemed like he tried to adopt many of his lifestyles. Because we hear about Raghunath. I don't know how much we can learn from that. I think the point you made is probably the most simple and effective point. Better to eat a little less than eat a little more. To regulate one's eating, not to eat more than we require, to maintain body, mind, and spirit, so to speak. But he went a bit overboard. He was new back to Michael. He would go on Sankirtan at God knows what time. But we would very early in the morning and come back quickly for class, and then he would go out again before breakfast, come back after breakfast was over, and just look in the bin to see if there was any leftovers in the bin from breakfast. He would go out again straight away on Sankirtan. He was chanting 64 rounds a day and sleeping about 2.5 hours a day. And he was taking a cold shower, only a cold shower. We never had hot showers anyway. But he would take cold showers, chanting his japa under the cold shower sometimes. Because he couldn't stay awake otherwise. He would chant japa under the cold water. He would just eat remnants, nothing but remnants out of the bin. And like this, that was his lifestyle. He would fall asleep during kirtan in the air. He collapsed in the air one time, crashed to the ground to sleep. He was following carefully in the footsteps of Raghunath Das Goswami. Especially all the boils and all the hospital bills or whatever. Well, I don't think we had to pay bills. But the time he spent in hospital shortly after that with boils all over his body, etc., etc. And of course, eventually, he left. I don't know what happened to him. But we're not here to imitate, but we're here to learn. Now, there's many lessons can be learned from that, but we don't have time to go into too many details on that one, because there's probably a few other lessons from Raghunath Das Goswami to learn. We eat, in his case, I would say another lesson, he was eating to please Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not to please himself. His austerities, relatively speaking, of next to eating next to nothing. In fact, in Vrindavan, he was just taking basically a palmful of buttermilk, or a little cup of buttermilk once every few days. There's many stories about that too, which are very illustrative, very important, but on a higher level. What else can we learn from Raghunath Das? If you want to carry on with that food one, you can carry on with that one too. But otherwise, other things.
He was very strict in his sadhana.
Excuse me?
He was very strict in his sadhana.
Yes, his sadhana was impeccable, like Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, so clock. Now, what was special about the sadhana of Raghunath Das Goswami? Everything was special. What comes out? Somebody else, come on, you know it all. Of course you should do. Yes.
It was like lines on a stone. His sadhana was like lines on a stone.
What was lined on the stone?
You get lines on the stone, you can't remove it.
You can't remove it. What was that what couldn't be removed? Is it artas?
His sadhana was
with me, it's an artas. What was it?
His sadhana was
his sadhana, it was like lines on a stone. It was so fixed, very fixed. But his sadhana we can't imitate, but we can follow the principle. What was his sadhana? I'll give some of them. We can't possibly say it all, but some, which is mentioned at least. Raghunath Das's sadhana. 2,000 what? To who? To Vaishnavas. Every day. 2,000, can you imagine offering 2,000? That doesn't necessarily mean up and down. You'll be up and down all day long. It'd be almost as inconceivable as Mahotsaha distributing 4,500 books in a day or something. You wouldn't be able to do anything else, Be up and down like a yo-yo, huh? Boom, 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 boom. 3,454. Only another 455 to go. Boom, 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 boom. These figures are given, but within his heart, he offered his obeisances to every living entity, practically speaking, he saw in Vrindavan. He saw everyone as worshipable. And he also was offering obeisance to the Lord 1,000 times a day. There's a lot of obeisances. I remember this, come on, Prabhu, we did that this morning after Mangalarti. Weren't you there? Why are you doing this again, I offered my obeisance to you last time. It didn't make no difference. You're still the same, blah, blah, blah. Or whatever it is, Our mentality is not quite so transcendental, huh? Easy to familiarity breeds contempt or whatever it is, all the other things that we're hearing about. Yeah, what else did he do? Okay, that's a pretty far out sadhana, isn't it? What else was his sadhana? Yeah. Okay, who said that? You said something already. No problem. Thank you very much. 64 rounds a day, minimum. He set a standard there too. That was his standard, 1 lakh. Yeah, okay. Another one?
His intense desire for devotional life.
Excuse me?
His intense desire for devotional life that his family had to tie him up.
Intense desire. Oh yeah, well that's going away from his sadhana a little bit. What about his sadhana? It is a sadhana also, but it's not what we're aiming at here. What was his sadhana? Someone else? Yes, Maharaj. Yeah, how many? What's that? 3 times. Every day, 3 times paid. No, that one we should definitely not imitate. In fact, none of these we should imitate. If to follow is a different thing when we're on that level of, or it's our duty, or whatever it may be, circumstantially. But Yeah, bathing 3 times daily in Radhakund. That's another deep subject. Of course, he himself was very much responsible for the excavation and the construction of Radhakund. That's another topic. He engaged the wealth of a rich merchant, Setji, in building excavating Radhakund. Yeah, so he was chanting daily bathing 3 times. What else was he doing?
Speaking about Lord Chaitanya,
Yeah, he spent a lot of time, with the association of the Goswamis and other devotees, simply recounting the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, paying Dandavat Parikrama to around Radhakund, so many things. What else can we learn from Raghunath Das? His sadhana was amazing. Okay. Okay, on the same sort of line as eating, he didn't eat very much. We just heard about that. You can't imitate that, and we haven't, similarly with sleeping. And sometimes even he couldn't sleep an hour and a half a day, but maximum an hour and a half a day. He would rest his body, and then, sometimes not. Yes, Prayojana Prabhu. Manashiksha? Yeah, he wrote several books. All the Goswamis, I don't know, did they all write something? Maybe not. Raghunath Bhatta, I don't think he wrote any books. I can't remember Raghunath Bhatta compiling any books. But mostly all the other Goswamis compiled literature. Only Raghunath Bhatta just shared the Bhagavatam. That was his, what did he say? More than enough. Yeah, he wrote several books. I don't know what we can learn from that. Should you start writing books? Sometimes. Prabhupada liked his disciples to write. What else can we learn from Raghunath Bhatta? Raghunath Das Goswami. For me, in one sense, is probably the most profound of all the lessons to learn. Something which is very significant to us. All the others are significant, but they may be more or less significant depending on what stage of devotion we're trying to render service from. But one is all pervasive. One lesson, at least, maybe more than one, coming to mind. Huh? Okay, complete humility, which you'll see in all. I mean, this is a general quality which is manifest in all the devotees at different time, place, and circumstance. What to speak of Kaviraj Goswami's humility, which you can read about in his little introduction and different stages of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how humble and tolerant he is, thinking himself lower than the worm in stool and so on and so forth, most unqualified and so on. Yet they all feel like this step of humility in many ways, that he wouldn't approach Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly. And this is related to the point I was going to make, or was asking if you could think of it. He wouldn't approach him directly. He'd go through Swarup Damodara Govinda, Lord Chaitanya's servant, secretary. He wouldn't go directly, here I am, I want to serve you, listen to me, I want to be with you. No, he would go through the devotees who were intimate servants of the Lord. He would keep in a little bit in a distance, and that's called forward in many cases. What else can we learn in this regards, along these lines? Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. And there's a little bit more to it than that. That's the foundation. This great festival of Panihati festival is more than just a bit of fun, a big festival, which it was indeed. It's more than just a chastise. Well, yes, it's related to Lord Nityananda chastising Raghunath Das. And what lesson can we learn from this? Exactly. He was previously, as was mentioned by one devotee earlier on, one of his sadhana was leaving home from the time he first saw Mahaprabhu in Shantipur when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. From that moment onwards, Raghunath Das was addicted to joining Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but circumstantially he wasn't able. His parents kept him tied down by various means, more or less. He tried many times. But then when he managed to get out when Lord Nityananda was ordered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come to Bengal, at that time Raghunath Das was able to come and see Nityananda. And Nityananda, what did Nityananda say to him? You are a thief. Now that can be understood from different angles, but from this particular perspective, you're a thief. Mahaprabhu is my property. You cannot get him without going through me. You can't just go to Mahaprabhu. You have to realize this. Oh, Guru Tattva, Lord Nityananda's Guru Tattva, and it means exactly what you say. You cannot possibly go to Krishna or the Supreme Person without pleasing the Guru Tattva, without pleasing the representative of the Lord. And they all teach this, of course. Our time is up now. Many, many more lessons could be learned from these great personalities, no doubt. Think about it today. Kaviraj Goswami we didn't really touch on, but think about this today, what lessons we can learn praying to these great personalities and meditating on their pastime of illustrating these particular lessons, and praying to them. By their mercy, they're our acharyas, they're our gurus. By their grace, it's by the association of devotees only that we can progress in spiritual life. By the mercy of the devotees, you may be praying to please bestow your mercy upon this fallen soul, meaning ourselves, that we can follow in their footsteps and develop these qualities which are pleasing to Mahaprabhu, pleasing to the Lord. Okay, I'm going to knock off there. We've got to go to the airport. I think we're flying back to the Holy Land today. You're flying off to India. Who else is going to India in the coming weeks? You're going to India. Who else is going? Anyone else flying off to India? Vrindavan, Mayapur, anywhere? Yes, you're going home, back to Godhead. Where else? I'll never forget that. You remember Pushta Krishna Swami, don't you? Yadavar Prabhu. Oh, he was amazing. He spent a lot of time here, Pushta Krishna Swami, in the 70s. And I always remember in the kirtans, evening kirtans, he would have this bong bong. And he would sing, he'd lead Gaur Arti. We're going home back to Godhead, bong, 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 we're going home back. We're all singing, we're going home back to Godhead during the evening Arti. It was far out. Yeah. Used to do some funny things in those days. You don't think it was all, black and white. It was some funny things used to go on. So we're going to the Holy Land tomorrow. Today, we're going before you. We're going to New Mayapur today, France. You've got to come back again, Yadavar Prabhu, please. Your wife came a few years ago. You've got to come. Please come. Please, huh? Oh, please do. Just drop me a line whenever you're free. We'll facilitate as best we can. Yeah, we're on a marathon there. All the devotees there on the marathon there, trying to fix the place. They've given us till October the 30th to fix the chateau. We redo all the electricity, all the fire alarm systems, put fire alarm doors in, fix this, fix that. We've got to have a laundry room fully fireproof. No washing machine can be anywhere else in the buildings. It's got to be in this 100% fireproof room. I don't know what they're going to come up with next, It's amazing what they're just pressing, push, everything. We've got to move Tulsi greenhouse. I've been pushing that for years. So that's a big one too. Build a new Tulsi house. We got another 4 more weeks. But they won't close us down because we started a lot of it already. Yeah, anyway. Keshava Maharaj knows a lot about this. He's been there hundreds of times to New Mayapur now. Many times. Anyway. Many devotees here are helping like anything. Without your help, there's nothing we can do. We'd like to thank all the devotees from the British Yatra who've been extremely helpful because we've had to raise around €750,000 euros in the last few months to do this work. And we're almost there. It's a miracle. Over other things, especially the devotees here have been very helpful, very kind. And devotees in other countries, Devotees we never even heard of, don't even know them, have been giving large amounts. Krishna's providing. So please, thank you very much. Pray that we can become a servant of the Vaishnavas one day. And Hare Krishna. And we could go on and on and on. You could be here all day talking about this, because we're just scratching the surface here, really. You know, we're only on the surface, so you just have to... It's all very well talking about what's inside, but, you know, we're still on the surface here. So what scratching will help us to go inside is relevant. Not what others are doing inside. It's nice to know about, but it's not relevant so much to us in our practical sense of the term. How are we going to go inside? Do we remain forever on the surface? No. They're teaching us by their examples, by their words, etc., how we can go a little deeper, even by our external behaviors. It's very important how we behave, how we relate, and all these other subjects. Right? Is it important? Doesn't matter how we behave, is it? Yes. Get out of the way, I'm doing service, buzz off. Buzz off, will you leave me alone, you know? I don't care about the guy next to me, and I'm on Sankirtan. Get out the way, bro. Get off that zebra crossing. I haven't got time to stop for you, you're karmi. This happens, isn't it? A good way to put people off Krishna consciousness. Gentleman, Prabhupada said. Example also speaks louder than words. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami ki jai. Srila Raghunath Bhatta Goswami ki jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. His Holiness Bhakti, long names you get these days. Keshava Maharaj. Swayam Bhagavan Keshava Maharaj. I just like to say Keshava. It's okay, we just say Keshava Maharaj. It's okay. And that's, I think, what most people say, isn't it? What's this? It's Ekadashi today. What are we eating today on Ekadashi? Huh? Cow dung? No. When is what is it this month? Chaturmas. Milk. Milk. Only milk, is it? No milk. No milk this month. Thank you so much. Mahaprasade, Govinde, Nama Brahmani, Vaishnavi, Hare Krishna. Where's my bag? Bring my bag. Huh?
When I come to Ujjain.
I've never been to Ujjain. I've never in my life been to Ujjain. I don't know, Maharaj.
Krishna Balaram's
Gurudev was always asking me.
education place.
Huh?
Krishna Balaram's education place.
Is Krishna Balaram there?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have Krishna Balaram in New Mayapur.
Krishna Balaram 64 days went for education there.
Shri